'Cause I got a peaceful, easy feeling, and I know you won't let me down, 'cause I'm already standing on the ground. That's from a song called Peaceful, Easy Feeling by the Eagles from 1972 self-titled album. How's everyone doing today? How are you, Joe?
Not bad. How are you, my friend?
Doing pretty well. We're recording on a Saturday for the first time. We usually record on Friday night. So we're doing it Saturday this week. That's the end of my work week anyway, is Saturday. I'm off on Sunday. So it's cool, we open up the show with peaceful, easy feeling. I got a little peaceful, easy feeling knowing that I don't have to work tomorrow, knowing that I completed a full week of work. Um, and we talked about what lyric we wanted to open up with this week, and you mentioned peaceful, easy feeling by the Eagles, and I'm wondering, what were you thinking?
You know, I heard it for the first time in a dog's age. I heard it this week. And there was a time back in the late 70s when I probably listened to uh those guys quite a bit, and even into the 80s at some point. And at some point, you, like any other artist, you get away, or you go here, you go there. And I heard Peaceful Easy Feeling the other day, and it just reminded me of how great that song was and how great that band was. But the last words, when the last phrase there, he said, well, you know he says, because I'm already standing on the ground. I'm already standing on the ground. What does that mean in that song? To me, he was talking about having his expectations in check. He was trying to tell
It's more like
her.
a metaphor, right? Like,
It was
like
a meta, right? Obviously, literally, his feet were presumably on the ground, but he's talking about metaphorically. He's talking about, I'm already firmly entrenched here. You're not going to break my heart, baby. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. I'm good. It would be nice if we could make something out of this, but if not, don't worry about it, because I've been here before and I'll survive. So realistic expectations was one thing. And the only other thing, when I really, it kind of secondary, but it's a really important virtue that I struggle with, what a lot of people struggle with. But having your feet on the ground, metaphorically, has another meaning too. And it's basically being humble, humility, having your feet on the ground. And like I said, it's a virtue. The man from Nazareth, I'm not going to get too religious, but the man from Nazareth talked about it quite a bit. He himself got down on his feet before the Last Supper and started to wash the feet of his disciples, his apostles. And they were arguing with him. You don't do that. You don't do that. He says, no, I have to do this. If you don't let me do this, you and I are done. Well, he said to Peter, and Peter looked at him and said, okay, fine, Lord. So even the man from Nazareth was talking about humility, and he explained that I'm giving you an example here of humility. And this is what you all should do. Take care of each other. Wash each other's feet,
Yeah.
so to speak.
You got me
Help
thinking.
each other.
You got me thinking when you said the thing about the washing each other's feet. Villanova was in the Final Four in 2016. They were in Houston, and Jay Wright, they were at like a pre-team meeting, a pre-meal or something like that. And Coach Wright, our former coach, a legendary Hall of Famer, Jay Wright, decided, I think it was him who decided, it's in his book is called Attitude. It's one of the best books I've ever read. It's Attitude by Jay Wright. But he talked about how he had the players wash each other's feet with iced tea. Now, I don't know why it was iced tea. It could have been water instead, whatever. I don't know, semantics and the details behind it and why they chose iced tea. But it was like a very close moment. Next thing you know, players and coaches are washing each other's feet. Now, I can see how this can be judged by other people thinking, oh, Villanova basketball is weird. Jay Wright's weird. Why are they washing each other's feet? But let me tell you, we won the national title that year. We won again in 2018. We were back in 2021 last year, in Jay Wright's last year. 2022, this year, actually. But these little things like that, he probably knows that story about the Jesus of Nazareth.
Well, first of
washing each
all,
other's feet. So it's a religious Augustinian school.
thank you.
So, it's one
Took
of
the
those
words
things
out of my mouth. Yeah.
the lesson was already in his mind somewhere. And, I don't know if, because they also have a priest who travels with the team. His name is Father Rob. So I have to double check the book and see if it was Father Rob's idea or Jay's or a combination. But you got me thinking, just the idea of just washing your fellow man's feet.
Right.
Kind of
And here,
humbling washing another human being's feet and you're not getting paid for it, you know?
and that's the whole thing. And the whole thing really, in Israel and Nazareth and that part of the world at that time, when you had sandals on and you were walking from place to place, you acquired quite a bit of dust on your feet. And those folks would go to sit down to eat dinner. And basically you walked into someone's house and there would be someone there to wash your feet. And usually it went to the most lowly place, like, the 11-year-old kid. Hey, come on, we have guests, wash their feet. I went to that's why when Christ went to do that, Peter said, whoa, 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 you're not doing that, like out of respect. And Christ said to him in so many words, I'm not going to quote anything. He said it differently, of course, but he said in so many words, I have to do this and you have to let me do it. Otherwise we're no longer going to, we're done because this is important. And he requested then, Peter said, please, Lord, go ahead, do it. So he washed their feet and he says, I am giving you an example of how to basically look after one another. And to hell with pride and all that stuff, be humble, express humility. It's all over the place in scripture. And you know me, I don't think everything in the Bible is true. I've said this many times. I can almost be assured in my gut, but that's where you have to assess the Bible. You're going to buy the whole thing or some of it. I buy some of it. The things that Christ said, I buy. I really do. And he said, when you go to a banquet, sit in the back and wait to be invited up front. All right. He who humbles himself will be exalted. He who exalts himself will be humbled. I mean, the Bible is littered with stories about this and how important it is. And it's tough though. It's tough sometimes because we're human, but go ahead.
Talking about being humble. A thing that I read years ago, to look out for with people is how does like the boss and how does the people with a lot of money, how do they treat the wait staff? How do they treat the janitor? Are they treating the janitor just as friendly and just as nice as they are their fellow like board members and high ranking officials? You can tell a lot about a person about how they treat workers who aren't making a lot of money and things like that. Humbling yourself and having that built-in characteristic, to treat everyone with respect, no matter if they can offer you something, if they can't offer you something, because a lot of people think everything's transactional. They think, why am I being nice to this person? What can they do for me? Even if it's subconscious, they're always thinking about themselves and what can they get out of that interaction. So the idea of like washing another person's feet, especially if a CEO washes like a janitor's feet, or just being super friendly and asking how their day was and being genuinely interested, and not just looking down on people. It's a very good characteristic to have.
It's a tremendous virtue to have. It's something that I hold very dear to this day. The Pope, and look, again, I'm not, me, and most folks that know me and maybe listen, I'm not super religious, but I'm spiritual. I'm about the man from Nazareth. I'm not about a lot of the dogma that surrounds him, because that was basically, brought on by men, just like you and I. It sat around and said, let's make this rule, let's make this rule, but I'm not going to get into that. To this day, the Pope once a year, forget when it is, but the Pope once a year gets a 12 people, just people from the street and from other, places, just to come from modest means. And he personally washes their feet. This is every year in the Vatican. Once a year, one day a year, that the Pope actually does this. And that's why he does it. And, there's that old thing that's, it's Matthew 25:40, that whatever you do to any one of the least of my brothers, you do to me. He said that. He said, whatever you do to any one of the least of my brothers, not some of, but any one of the least of my brothers, you do unto me. What he was saying was, he is me, I am you, we're connected, is what he was saying. We're connected so closely that it would blow your mind how closely connected we are. One philosopher once said, when he looks into the eyes of another human being, he feels like he's seeing a different version of himself. That's how connected he was.
Yeah. So a great way to look at it. Because if you have the natural ability to empathize with others, empathize is being able to walk in someone else's shoes.
Yes.
So whenever you're trying to figure someone out, just, picture what it's like to walk in their shoes, even if it's just for a day or a moment. Just be like, what is it like to be them for that, and then it can really just give you a whole mind blowing perspective on each individual you meet.
Yes, indeed, sir.
I wanted to say the song that we started out with is by the Eagles. They were a great band, and basically the two main members that everyone knows is Glenn Frey, and Don
Fry.
Henley. But Glenn Frey died in 2016, and Don Henley is still alive. But I didn't realize they're really this like an awesome band. If you actually look up, they had like 5 number one singles, and they kind of were a big deal in the 70s for sure. And I went through their self-titled album today and some of their greatest hits, and there are songs that I know that I just forgot about. You know?
That's what sparked me the other day, and I'm hearing the beginning of that too. I like the way your sparkling earrings lay against your skin so brown, and I want to sleep with you in the desert tonight with a billion stars all around. And it was whoa, and it reminded me not only of that time, but also some personal memories that it actually did bring back. Well, except for the desert, but so it's really some all nice stuff. But I wanted to say about the Eagles is they were nice, and they were strummy, and they were really nice sound, and then they were right a real like a softer Desperado. Like all those nice songs, and they were cool, like Peaceful Easy Feeling, like Take It to the Limit, like all that stuff.
Hotel California too.
Well, that's what I was just going to say.
Oh man.
And Joe Walsh was not a member of that band originally. In 1976, 77, he went and joined the Eagles. And I can remember my brother saying, Joe Walsh just joined the Eagles. It's like the charge of electricity. They need it. He said, mark it down. That next album was going to be dynamite. And here that next album was Hotel California. I wonder
if that was before, he has a song called like Life's Been Good. And that's just a classic song. I wonder if that was Life's Been Good came before he joined the Eagles.
I'm almost certain it was after Hotel California. Life's Been Good was like around 1978. I'm almost certain. Or Rocky Mountain Way. If you ever heard Rocky Mountain Way, that's before he joined the Eagles. I mean, it was just this thunderous guitar, and like he could pick it like nobody could. Yeah. And in that Hotel California album, there are a lot of riffs where he's just, it's unbelievable. Life in the Fast Lane is one. Even Hotel California, he gets wailing on that thing. But you know, the one thing I wanted to say about Hotel California, anytime I talk about Hotel California, I have to pay homage to the last song. The last song on that album is called The Last Resort. Please, everybody, if you're listening, you'd like anything about the Eagles, listen to that last song, because I'm telling you, it's the best song on that album, and that album is legendary. But The Last Resort, it's sort of like back into
my playlist right now. Adding it to my playlist.
It's not only the words, like we were talking the other day, the words are poetry, but the melody is really nice too. And it's sort of like leans a little bit back to the Eagles DNA, like a softer type of thing, but it's really, really cool. The last song on the album, appropriately named The Last Resort.
Yeah, because there's another famous song called Last Resort by Papa Roach.
I don't know who that is.
I know. I'm just connecting the names of the song here. That song is friggin' fantastic, and will get you super charged up. If everyone needs a gym song to work out, Last Resort by Papa Roach. But anyway, yeah.
I think there was one. Wasn't there one in the late 90s too? Suffocation, No Breathing.
Yeah, that's Last Resort.
I don't know who Papa. I don't know who Papa Roach was from Bing Crosby from you know.
It's what one thing I really like about
but I know that song.
My parents are still alive, and I have uncles and aunts. Talking to the older generation, and I love how they give you insights into like the music during their time, and that the fact that they were alive, and because I love the classic rock music. So the fact that you guys were alive during that time period and you were living it, and consuming this music, on the radio mostly and your vinyl records. I wish I can go back in time and live in the 70s during the classic rock, because that was like the golden era of music. But it's amazing, like being friends with older people and like hearing the stories, like just by you referencing, I think that was like 1978 and this and that. And like, man, it's like people who don't, interact with older people, and if they're younger and you think like older people are boring, it's not true at all. Ask them the right questions and you could talk to them for hours and hours about all sorts of things.
That is true. And I don't mind you, since you are so much younger than I.
I'm 36. I'm not a spring chicken here, but just to give you an idea.
Well, I'm older than 36, but older than you. I'm not quite in the older bin yet, but I'm older than you are. That's certainly true. But it's cool. That's cool. But from your reference point, older people. But see, when I hear older people in my years, I'm thinking in their mid 70s and stuff. So,
Well, no, I
it's one
mean,
of those.
because
Yeah,
you have
no, it's cool.
because if you're talking to me, who, you got like 20 something years on me, right? And it's like,
Right.
the perspective, all the years that you were living, and I was not even an embryo, and I was not even, in a thought of being born in this universe. You were existing and living a whole life. Like
Yeah.
all, high school and college. It's like, wow. It's like this
Yeah.
people, it's like the shit that got to experience is like a different level,
What's funny is, and well, it's, I was a little bit of a rambunctious young fella, and my dad, rather than have me roaming wherever the hell I wanted to roam for summer vacation, he got me a little gig. He was a cabinet maker, so he did woodwork in the shop, and there was a warehouse to the it was lumber for home builders. Basically, he was a cabinet maker, but they had a whole warehouse full of like plywood and sheets and 2x4s and materials and blah, 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 blah. So I was out there, and I went out there just, stacking wood or straightening up and things like that. I'm a young buck, eighth grade or whatever it was in the summers, but he wanted to keep an eye on me, which was probably a smart, smart move on his part. But I can remember that song coming on the radio and like a DJ saying something about brand new from Joe Walsh. Life's been good to me so far. And it was just, you hear a song and it takes you right back sometimes, right back to a certain
it's like
place.
a time capsule.
So yeah, so we're talking 1978, if I'm not mistaken. If it's either 77 or 78, I'm almost certain it was 1978. And yeah, it took me right back there. It's just neat how music, and sometimes some songs can really zero it in. But no, it's all good. Yeah, I know what you mean, because my favorite, my favorite, the Alpha and the Omega is the Rolling Stones and Jagger and that whole thing. And I feel like the way you feel toward what you just said, the music of mine, I kind of feel that way because I missed the front end of that. I had my Stones records on from the time I was, a kid, but it was still before my time. I mean, I was born in 64. So, I mean, I'm born in 64. Most of what they were doing and really ripping it up was during the time of my birth to like 6 or 7 years old, so I really didn't know then what was, so I always felt the way you just expressed, the way you felt about, that era. I kind of felt the same way about that British invasion and the Beatles and the Stones and the Who. Yeah. I still loved all three of those. They're my top three.
There's actually an excellent documentary about the Beatles on Disney Plus. It's called Get Back. I started watching it. It's just a ton of footage from
the recording,
from the Beatles, and it's just like you see, just watching these legends like just coexist and interact together. You don't even need a documentary person like narrating. You can just like watch them, like observe and like see how they like you're getting the songs together and recording and talking. It's like that's better than any like documentary and biography that you can read. Just like, and this is like, this documentary has a ton of footage. It's crazy.
I've heard that it was excellent, and it's long though. So I want to sit down when I can really like binge it and watch the whole thing. Cause I think there are 3 or 4 episodes each, like an hour and a half long or something like that. Yeah, I looked at it and it was mega hours. So I want to watch it, but I want to make sure I can binge it.
Yeah, man, for sure. So I just got a breaking alert that they just announced the Heisman Trophy winner. We're going to talk about sports a little bit later, but I just want to congratulate Caleb Williams, the quarterback from USC. I believe he has like 37 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's only a sophomore. He was a true freshman last year for Oklahoma. Then he transferred to USC when the coach, Lincoln Riley, went to USC. But, he was a clear-cut winner for the Heisman, it seems like, and he won. So congratulations, Caleb.
Yes, sir.
I don't watch a ton of college football.
I don't watch a ton of it either.
Don't have the time, but there are people that I know who are like hyping him up. Also people from California. They're like, this guy's the best prospect they've ever seen. He's amazing.
Well, out of that school, that's rare. So that I do know.
Well, I mean, USC, I think they've had like, this is like their 10th Heisman winner or something crazy like that. Like they had
a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, well, they had Carson Palmer.
It's not a quarterback factory, if you know what I mean. It really is.
It's a new era, but they also did back in the day. They had like Carson Palmer, but the new coach Lincoln Riley came from Oklahoma, and they gave him like this crazy deal, and he had no choice but to take the deal, pretty much. But from Oklahoma to California, and he took Caleb with him, so could be a nice little string because he's like a good offensive mind and whatnot. It could be a nice Caleb Williams, the thing about college, they can't just jump to the pros. So if he's a true sophomore, he can't go to the pros next year. He's got to wait, I think, another year. So it's going to be fun to watch this guy develop and possibly become a NFL quarterback for sure. But I just wanted to touch on that really quick because obviously it's breaking news. This is not, the show is not going to be released till later. So you never know. Maybe people will find out about the Heisman winner during our show, which is pretty cool too. But I also wanted to talk about the famous soccer writer Grant Wall, who suddenly died last night in Qatar covering the World Cup. Horrible tragedy. He's like really well respected in the writing industry. His niche is soccer. I didn't read a ton of his stuff, but I know of him. And he wrote like a cover story for Sports Illustrated about LeBron James when LeBron James was in high school. So LeBron James put a nice note out there to commemorate Grant Wall. I don't want to get too cynical here, but he had bronchitis and he had been feeling sick. So he had been resting when he wasn't working, when he wasn't covering the World Cup. He'd been resting in his hotel room and stuff. The first day there, his brother is gay. He wore a Jay Wright shirt to the game, and then they detained him and made him take it off, and it was a big issue. And then he wrote an article about migrant workers being mistreated at the World Cup. So he did some things that rubbed people the wrong way, and he was in another foreign country, so you don't know, they have their own laws there, and not everyone's as sophisticated as America. People just suddenly die and disappear, which is horrible. And I'm not saying that he was killed because he had bronchitis. So he also could have had side effects from the vaccine, probably not the vaccine, but getting bronchitis, not everyone survives. I don't know how dangerous bronchitis is, but the crazy part about it is he did his podcast the day before. He tweeted like a couple hours before he died. He was completely fine, but he did say in the podcast, I think it's called like the Grant Wall, the football show or something with Grant Wall, football spelled FUTBOL.
Right.
But he talks about like not feeling that good. So, the cynical mind wants to think, okay, he supported gay rights. He spoke out against the workers. They got rid of him. They made a statement. Even if it wasn't the government, it could have been some other people there who just, killed him. That's extreme. And I'm not willing to say definitively whether he was killed or not.
Yeah,
He could have easily died of natural causes, and it could be total coincidence. But I want to, people to remember that this guy was only 48 years old. He was married. He was just an up and coming star, even though he's 48. He was still, because soccer's a growing game. And he was responsible for really, growing the game of soccer in America. He was really like influential. So it's just unfortunate that he died. I hate thinking that he possibly could have been killed. I don't know this, but he did have bronchitis, so it could have just been natural causes. Probably was, but it's sad.
Another thing, it is sad. And another thing I thought too, Sean, when I heard about this, and I heard about they said he was telling everyone that he went to the hospital the day before because he had bronchitis and chest pains and blah, 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 blah. He was telling everyone that. We don't really know if this man had a lot more going on physically in terms of, being sick, because a lot of people, they keep that stuff. They keep it really well hidden. Until the
thing that makes me like believe that I'm gonna let you continue in a second, but his brother is gay, and his brother put out a very like sad video on like Twitter or social media saying that like his brother was definitely killed. So if anybody knew that he had like a serious condition, it would probably be his brother, unless he hid it from his brother. That's that's me just kind of saying that angle, but
I'm just saying it's possible that
he had a condition he didn't know about. He could have
either he didn't know about, or he was more sick than he let on, or it is possible. You are right. I thought that too. That geez, I wonder what what really happened there. And like I said, I was talking to someone just yesterday about that. It was just in the hallway and just talking about this and I said, let's just say this, that the circumstances surrounding his death are still yet to be determined. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it's just it's very sad, and it's heartbreaking for the family. They're dealing with it more than anybody else, and it's not really everyone else's job to accuse and condemn a whole country and thinking the worst thing possible, that they killed them. But if you're putting the puzzle pieces together, where there's some smoke and not necessarily there's a fire, but the combination of the gay rights thing, because Qatar had shot down the FIFA players in the countries from wearing like rainbow wristbands and stuff to support gay rights, because it's, in foreign countries like that, in certain religions and whatnot, they're really just like anti-gay. So he ruffled some feathers. Then he put out an article. Anyone can read the article. It's about like the migrant workers and whatnot. He's got a site called, I think it's called grantwall.com. Wall is spelled WAHL. And it could have just been a crazy coincidence, because everyone thinks he was murdered just because these things happened. And I'm sure Qatar is happy that they're hosting the World Cup, and they don't want to, they want to host it again in the future. I even if this didn't happen, they're probably never going to host the World Cup again, just because it's been a mess with a lot of different things going on. Also, it has to take place in the winter here. Usually the World Cup's in the summer, but I wanted to just, a guy passes away and it's a current event. The World Cup's going on. I feel like we have to mention it on the show.
Oh yeah, without question.
But on the, better things, we're going to highlight an actress today, not an actor, so an actor, but not a male. We're going to do a female today because we love female actresses. We have respect for all genders, and the first couple shows we just did a couple actors that were on the top of our mind, but we're going to mix it up for sure. So today we're doing Viola Davis. Joe, you really like Viola Davis, and why do you really like her?
I like her for her longevity. She's been around a long time, and I like her for her versatility. She's really versatile, very talented. And to boot all that, she's a cutie too, I think. Anyway, I'm going to give you my 5 Viola Davis movies. Just then again, this is my top 5. Okay. Everything's subjective, everybody. I mean, there are myriad movies that she did that I still want to see. Okay. So don't jump all over me. All right. Here we go. 5, Disturbia. She was a hard-nosed detective in that with some real swag. This was early on in her career. The movie was really cool. I liked it. I bet you it's close to 20 years ago. All right. 4, Antoine Fisher. She had a very short role in this movie, but her body language and her mannerisms are legendary in that scene when he goes to meet his mother. And she was his mother in that movie. So 5, Disturbia. 4, Antoine Fisher. 3 was a movie called Doubt, and she won an Oscar for her role in Doubt.
One of my favorite actors, Philip Seymour Hoffman, was in that. He's one of my favorite actors. He also died. We're going to spotlight him one show for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. She played the role of a concerned parent. And again, look, I'm a Catholic dude, and we're all this comes up in conversation quite a bit, but it was a damn good movie about the corruption of some that 2% that I talked about. So let's not punish the 98% of good priests for the 2% of, So, but Hoffman, as you call him, he played the role of a priest that was abusive to.
Yeah, but it didn't from what I remember, the whole movie you didn't really know the answer the whole movie, right? It was like a mystery.
I think at the very end,
Don't spoil it for anybody.
But let's just say it's safe to say that. Let me put it to you this way: Viola Davis played the role of a mother of a kid who was under the tutelage of a priest that was very, very, very suspicious in his mannerisms and the things that he said, the things that he did. And I think it was warranted as a viewer of the movie. So she won an Oscar for her role in Doubt. Okay. Yep. Then the next one is a movie called The Help. And The Help was about.
I had to see that movie. I've never seen it.
It was about it was a fantastic movie. It's about something that irritates me, but fascinates me. It's the 60s. The old South, 1940s, 50s, 60s. This took place in the 1960s in the South. And she played the role of a woman who would go to someone else's house all day and clean and do things like that. Housekeeping chores, look after the kids, sort of like a nanny role. But it showed the world from her vantage point and the things she had to deal with and the struggles that she had. And that's not an easy thing to do, but folks down there at that time had limited education, limited means, and particularly women at that time. So they did what they had to do. And it just gives you a real close-up look at the life of one of those housemaids in the 1960s in the Deep South. Couldn't be an easy thing to have done. The number one, and she won another Oscar for her role playing the wife of Denzel Washington in a movie called The Fences, which was also, I understand they did a play like in New York on Broadway or whatever, but I watched the movie called Fences.
Yeah, I saw it.
It's a fantastic movie, and she just shattered the screen on this thing. So she played his wife, and he was a sanitation worker in, I believe it was Pittsburgh, in like the 1920s, 1930s. And the stuff that she had to endure as the wife of this Joker, again, because I guess, limited opportunity.
I saw it. Wasn't it? I remember there was like infidelity, right? Wasn't there infidelity?
Yeah, there was. Okay. There was. But she won an Oscar for that too. So I'm going to run it to you down again. Number 5, Disturbia. 4, Antoine Fisher. 3, Doubt. 2, The Help. And 1, Fences. That is subjective. That's my opinion.
She's a phenomenal actress, and the thing about it, she's been around, I think, since the early 90s. She started off in theater. She went to the Juilliard School, but she has the triple. She's the only African American to achieve the Triple Crown of acting. Now, the Triple Crown of acting is an Academy Award, a Primetime Emmy Award, and a Tony Award, and she's achieved that. And what I really noticed her first was, How to Get Away with Murder on ABC, a show that aired from about 2014 to 2020. Yeah. That's where because she was like this really like intense like professor, law school professor. And this was around the time that I was in law school. And I was just very impressed with her. And her acting and how vulnerable she was willing to be. And all these little things that they showed, when she wasn't around her students, when she was in her house with her husband. I believe it was an interracial marriage, from what I remember. But when she's on screen, you're paying attention. That's all I can say. You're paying attention, and she's so she does a lot. She's done a lot of theater, so people have been seeing Broadway for years, and theater probably knew of her. But it's great that she's finally getting the respect that she deserves, because even her Academy Award was for like a supporting actress type of role.
Right.
So. But I think she has 2 Tony Awards are for theater. I think she has actually 2 Tony Awards. But yeah, it's one of those things. She's captivating when she's on screen. It's like, you need to, what is this? She makes you believe whatever she's saying. And that's what an actor should do.
Right. And just recently I saw an ad. I haven't seen it yet, but The Woman King or The Lady King or whatever the name of the new one is.
I saw it in theaters. I'll be honest with you. I didn't like the movie at all. I thought it was kind of a bad, boring movie. And I've seen a lot of movies this year.
Right.
Nothing against her.
No, well, she's not going to bat 1,000. And again, that's subjective on your part too, because other people may dig it.
I think the movie is up for like an Academy Award. It's going to be, and I don't know why, because I could rant at it another day. I didn't really like The Woman King, but that's but then nothing to really do with her. That was her role, and she was in a movie. She's not the one who wrote made the whole movie and is responsible for the whole thing, but. She was in Woman King recently, but I just didn't like it.
And she's in another one that is with the Suicide Squad. Is that the name of it or something like that? What's the name of the squad? Was she in Suicide Squad? Does she play like the cop in Suicide Squad? She plays a tough cookie. Now, I haven't seen either one. Everybody's like, no, I just haven't seen either one yet. It looked like I got to be in the right frame of mind to watch that kind of stuff. But I saw a clip from her in that, and I heard rave reviews about her in that.
She's actually in another like kind of superhero show called The Peacemaker with John Cena. But it doesn't matter. Like, she doesn't have to have a big role in like a movie or a show or a theater, or she's going to make her mark.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She's got a way about her, a presence. But especially, like I said, in Fences, that was like, wow. Look at that. That's unbelievable. So I like that we move around a little bit and, represent everybody.
Yeah. So I wanted to, ask you early on in the show. You don't have much of a cheat meal this week, but you did have, I heard you had McDonald's. What is your go-to at McDonald's?
My go-to at McDonald's, look, McDonald's is just one of those things that, every once in a while, you got to just go back and remember that it's actually pretty good. Actually tastes pretty good. I went back, and I had the double quarter pounder with cheese, large fries. I usually get 2 apple pies, but this time of year they have the holiday pies, which are like little custard pies. So I did 2 of those and some nuggets.
Nice.
And that was, yeah.
What did you get? Did you get the 10-piece, the 20-piece?
I got the 6. I just got the 6. I got the 6 this time. I wasn't real hungry.
If you're gonna frequent McDonald's, I highly recommend using their app because their app is excellent. You can literally just give them a code on your phone. You don't have to take out your debit card or cash, and then you get points every time you use your account. You use the app. Just give them a code, and also there's deals. So there's always large fries for $1. All you have to do is buy something else and you get large fries for $1. That's once a week. They have free medium fry Friday. And again, this is not a promotion for McDonald's or anything, but you mentioned that you had McDonald's and it got me thinking about something I read recently. There's something called a Mick Gold card. It's free McDonald's for life. That sounds like amazing for anyone who's able to get that. But I think there's stipulations and it's really tough getting the McGold card. It's almost impossible, but that would be freaking cool to get a McGold card. But yeah, Joe, I mean, honestly, if you're going to go to McDonald's once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever the hell it is, and get some food, start building those points up because they accumulate pretty damn quick.
I'll think about it, bro. I told you a long time ago, I like the fact that you know all these deals, and it should be a pretty much a semi-regular segment on here is you telling everybody about different deals here and there, because you're very astute when it comes to that kind of thing. And I appreciate that. And if I were going to go, but like I said, I'm once in a while with McDonald's, I'll drop in just to remember.
About McDonald's and, think about the McDonald's. Something that came to my mind. Did you hear about that Arby's manager, Stephen Sharp, who peed in the milkshake machine?
No, my God, because no, I didn't.
This Joker, you got me saying Joker now. Joker was not part of my. I'm calling everybody Joker now.
I like it. I heard it used, and I heard it used by Brian Dawkins talking about his son. Like, this Joker wakes me up at 5 o'clock every morning or something like that. And I thought it was a term of endearment almost. It's not it real. That's why I mean it. And sometimes I guess I do mean it in other ways too, but it's a good term and it keeps us from using excessive profanity. Go ahead.
Exactly. So this sicko, call him a sicko instead of a Joker, I guess. He peed into the milkshake machine at Arby's. And the only reason they found out is because he was being investigated for child pornography.
Oh my God.
And they happened to review videotapes while watching him or something like that. They found a 16-second urination video. It's what the hell's going on with this world? And how often does this happen? Say they weren't watching him. Say they weren't monitoring him. Because I've heard crazy stories about these fast food workers, wiping their ass with the bun, doing all sorts of stuff.
Well, let's hope that's.
But you don't find out about it. You like to be not so cynical, but then you hear about this sicko. I guess they're willing to hire anybody at some of these places. And I don't know if he had previous charges, but he's being investigated for child porn. And then next thing you know, he's peeing in a milkshake maker. Talk about a horrible person.
I think you're right, and I think that again, you're looking at the aberration as opposed to, I wouldn't start, like you were talking about overthinking and this and that. I wouldn't start every time you walk into, look, and you know what? You have to really pick, some Arby's are better than other Arby's. You know what I mean? It depends, it's some Arby's, that's why they have different star ratings and this and that. It's like, I'm going to go to this one or go to that one. I go to this one. I think I'll stay away from that one. But I wouldn't worry about anything, in that. I think that's like I said, I think it's the aberration, not the rule. But it's very disconcerting to say the least, believe me. I'd like to smack him upside the head is what I'd like to do. I mean, it really angers me that someone could have that much disregard and just want to be a little smart ass to that degree, to be that antisocial, to urinate in someone else's food, it irritates me to no end. And like I said before, I'm not a super religious guy. I have certain beliefs, and we fall short sometimes. And sometimes we get angry. Like if I had this joker near me or something, I might like have a few words for him. And that's not exactly consistent with but we're human, and we're going to miss the mark sometimes. And sometimes something like that could set me off. And I don't think I'm alone in that regard either. So
hopefully he ends up in prison, or he's already in prison, and he'll have some justice served while he's in prison, if you know what I mean.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right.
So do you play chess at all? Have you ever played chess?
When I was a kid, 5th grade, 6th grade, played a little bit of chess, but I was never good.
Yeah, I was in the chess club in like 5th or 6th grade, and I got really into it. I had my mom buy me a nice chessboard, and I really started studying it, but I just gave it up because I was more played sports and I had to focus on school. I didn't have the mental bandwidth to really focus on chess at that time, but I do regret not really getting good at chess or learning an instrument. Howard Stern always talks about how one of his biggest regrets is not mastering an instrument. Now he focused on other areas. He's good at photography. He's good at painting and drawing. He's also very good at chess. But that's just, me thinking out loud here. But anyway, I want to talk about chess for a little bit because there's a big controversy. It's, New York Times, kind of updates what's going on with this case. There's a player named Hans Niemann. He's not a highly ranked player, and he had been accused of cheating online a couple times, but he faced Magnus Carlsen at a big tournament, and apparently, like he beat him. And Magnus Carlsen's like, "There's no way this guy could beat me." He's convinced the guy cheated, but there's no proof he cheated. Now, just for you hearing this and not knowing a lot about it, if the guy's adamant that he didn't cheat, there's not allowed. There's no cell phones allowed. There's none of this allowed. They're very strict with what the regulations and that prevent cheating. And he had previous history of cheating online, but he vowed to never do it again to become a great player. And he's been proven. He's been practicing. He's played I think 1,000 more games than Magnus Carlsen has played in the past couple of years. Like he's playing at a higher clip than the best player in the world. Is it inconceivable that he just beat the guy, or do you think that he cheated? Do you think Magnus Carlsen is kind of unjustly tarnishing his name, or the guy? What do you think? What's your first impression?
First impression is probably not very forthright.
Like you think that he possibly cheated?
I probably, based on what I've heard, I think that, yeah.
That's the sad part, because it's like, what if he didn't? What if he's really, turned his career around and he's been practicing like a madman, and then he happens to beat the number one player in the world who has computer, chess.com acquired Magnus Carlsen's training program. He's well respected, and they have a lot to lose if Magnus Carlsen's reputation is tarnished and he lost to this player is not nearly ranked as high as Magnus. And they can't figure out how he cheated. There's speculation that he used a sex toy. He put a sex toy in his butt, and he got vibrations from an outside source is vibrating to give him what to do with the moves. That sounds so, intense and so out of the ordinary and so uncomfortable for a player who's playing chess. I highly doubt that happened, but it sounds like you're hearing the basic initial facts of the case, and you're thinking the guy cheated, even if there's no way to cheat. It's kind of
you asked me what my initial impression was, and
you're the people. So
right. That's my initial impression.
I like doing live stuff like this where you don't have a background in it, because it gives the audience an idea of what the objective and what the average person is thinking when they hear certain things. Because people might see him that guy cheated. He shouldn't have beat Magnus. But that's going to segue into sports, I guess. We have a couple big games this weekend for the Cowboys and Eagles. Also, I first want to talk about the Yankees re-signed Aaron Judge. I believe they gave him 9 years, $360 million. Everyone was the Yankees fans at least, were nervous that he was going to go elsewhere. But we got him back. He's a hell of a player. He could have went to San Francisco. I think San Francisco probably offered him a little bit more money. The number I heard was $360 million. And that's what the Yankees gave him. And he stayed with New York. And also he's going to be the captain now. I think he might have a C on his jersey. I don't know if they have, he's going to have a real C on his jersey or not, but he's going to be the captain. And, he's pretty much going to be a Yankee for life at this point. And also the Phillies, your team,
Yes, sir.
Gave $300 million to a shortstop, Trey Turner. How you feeling about that?
I'm liking it a lot. I watched that guy when he was with the Dodgers. I mean, this guy was, man, he's really good defensively, and offensively, he's got power bomb beyond belief for a shortstop. He's quick as hell. And he was always like, every time he came up, it was like, it seemed like, he was just a beast. Every time I've seen him and watched that team. And I'm not sad that the Dodgers have lost quite a bit of talent, I think, in the last couple of month or two. But no, I think it's a great pickup. And we also got a pitcher from the Mets who was really good last year. Really good pitcher. I can't right off the top remember his name.
Is it Taijuan Walker?
Yeah, Walker. They got Walker. So now you've got
Great.
Right. Because we've got Nola, we've got oh my goodness, how can I not think of
the thing about you guys basically have a lot of former Mets, You got Syndergaard, right?
Well, Syndergaard, he's going to. I don't even know if he's going to be around. Walker is who I'm thinking of, right? Walker.
Yeah.
We got Walker. We got Nola. After Walker and Nola, we have
Zach Wheeler.
No, the third. Wheeler's who I'm thinking. I'm not Walker. I'm sorry. Wheeler, Nola. Then we've got is it Sanchez? I'm thinking of.
I'm a Yankees fan, but
I'm thinking of.
You guys have
Angel. I think his first name is Angel. Angel
Okay.
Sanchez. I think that's him. He's left-hander, really good. And now we got Walker. You got 4 studs there.
Exactly. You guys are going to be dangerous for sure. Coming off
Angel Suarez.
Possibly. I mean, I don't follow the Phillies that closely, but
Well, they're America's team. How you not following? Go ahead.
Yeah. So what do you think about because there's not to talk too much baseball here, but there's Hall of Fame finalists and whatnot. Do you think Jason Worth has any shot at the Hall of Fame?
Not that from what I can remember, but I didn't follow it really avidly.
He was a hell of a player, and he was known for his big beard and everything. And he's like the everyman type of player.
Yeah, he grew a cool beard, and he used to wear the
clutch too. But I don't
long hair.
I don't think he was a Hall of Famer. But I think I saw his name in he was in discussion for they're voting on it. I don't think he has any. I have to look at his numbers more closely, but I'd want that guy on my team any day, of course. But Hall of Famer is a whole different story,
I kind of agree with you, not only in baseball, but across the sports world. I think the Hall of Fame has become, the Hall of Pretty Damn Good. And it's not the Hall of Pretty Damn Good, man. It's the Hall of Greatness, right? You can't just let everybody in. All right. And the marginal guys, sometimes they don't make it. But if it's not going to be, if we're going to start really bending, I think they let too many people into these, and I think they need to redefine what the Hall of Fame should be across the board. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think the guys who did steroids deserve to get in one day, like Bonds and McGuire and Clemens? Think they deserve to?
It's a really, really good question. I don't know. I don't know if Barry Bonds didn't take steroids, that he still doesn't hit as many home runs as he hit. He's just not going to hit them as far, right? So instead of hitting like a 400
fast twitch speed and all sorts of stuff with your reaction and your
I guess when you really think about it.
But
I think what they did was more egregious than what Pete Rose did.
Yeah, I agree, because Pete Rose was
he never bet on his team to lose.
Yeah, it was a whole different type of cheating,
He bet on baseball, but he bet on his team to win, which would suggest he'd never do anything unscrupulous, right? If he bet against his team, that's different, but he never did, and no one ever proved that he did. But it didn't matter. He was, quote, gambling in baseball while being a manager.
Speaking of gambling, unless you have more thoughts on that?
Well, I just think what those guys did was far more egregious than what Pete Rose did. But go ahead.
Speaking of gambling, my bad gambling beat of the week is I placed a bet on Lionel Messi to score a goal and Argentina to win. Now, when you're betting soccer, you have to bet on them to win in regulation. So if it goes to extra time is there's 2 15-minute periods if it's tied after the end of regulation, then you don't get the win. So I was feeling good. Lionel Messi scored a penalty kick. The goal was secured. Argentina went up 2-0. I was feeling very good. And then I'm getting alerts on my watch, an Apple Watch, and it says the other team scored. I'm like, okay, the other team scored. What the hell's going on? The Netherlands scored. So it's 2-1. And then it goes it's in the 90th minute and there's extra time. And I'm thinking there's only 4 minutes of extra time. And I'm like, oh my God, please just let this game end. Cause it was a big bet for me. I didn't bet a ton of money, but I would have won combined with both bets, probably like around $100 or whatever, which is like big for me betting, at least. But in the 11th minute of injury time, because they had injury time at the end of 90 minutes, it's all how many times the ref had to stop the game, how many injuries were there, substitutions. They put all the time together and they add it to the end of it. So it's like it's 90 minutes and there's a plus sign for however they're adding. So apparently there's 11 extra minutes of injury time, and they scored in the 11th minute, like the last minute of injury time. And I'm like, oh my God! So I lost my bet because Argentina didn't win. They won the game, but they didn't win in regulation. They won in penalty kicks. They won in extra time after regulation was over. So that's my bad gambling beat of the week. And I also want to talk a little bit briefly about Villanova basketball. I was fortunate enough to sit in the first row at the UPenn game on Wednesday at the Finneran Pavilion in Pennsylvania. I had pre-game drinks in the Fitzgerald Club with some members of the VU Sports Board. I enjoyed that very much, getting to know those guys better because you only really know them from the online message board. They're great people. And Villanova won, but the great thing is Villanova has turned their season around. Now they have Cam Whitmore. He's an NBA big-time blue chip prospect. He's likely going to be a top 5 pick if he stays healthy. He had, just a window and into like how, good he's going to be in the NBA and why he's an NBA player and why so early. He's built like a grown man. He's already very muscular. He's super athletic. And he had this one play where he went up for a layup with his left hand or something like that. He missed a layup going over. The guy was defending it. But after he missed the layup, the ball was still bouncing on the rim. He jumped up before the ball could get down to the ground for it to be rebounded by him or someone else. And he dunked it with his right hand. It was phenomenal. I was there. I saw it in person. I was amazed. And I gave a high five to the gentleman sitting next to me who I met that night. His name is Lou. Very nice guy. So we shared that moment at the game. And I saw the guy in person, Cam Whitmore, and this guy is phenomenal. He's just getting his legs because he had a broken thumb. He had surgery on it and he hasn't been practicing with the team. Then they played Boston College today. They won by over 20 points. He had like 13 points in 13 minutes in the first half. They makes our team look so much better. It's amazing what a team can. People think the team's not that good, but then you add an NBA player, and then you add that Justin Moore is going to come back in January probably, our point guard who we lost before the Final Four last year, probably cost us a national title. So Villanova's 5-5. We're back at 500. The season's looking good now as long as Cam stays healthy and Justin comes back in January. So I'm feeling good about that. Because some people are doubting us. But I want to move on a little bit to football. So the Cowboys and Eagles this week, because that's what because I'm a Cowboys fan, you're an Eagles fan. That's why we talk a lot about the Cowboys and Eagles. They have a couple easy games. I know you're going to say, the Giants is never really an easy game, but I think the Eagles should really handle the Giants. And you actually think about the Giants, they're a way better team than the Giants, but it's all about matchups and coaching and things like that. What do you think about the Eagles versus Giants this week?
What I think about the Eagles versus Giants this week is what the Eagles can't do is allow to happen what happened when they played Washington a couple weeks back on Monday night. Now, our football team is much better than that football team, but they managed to come in here and they managed to beat us. And you can't allow yourself to be in a situation where a couple bad bounces can determine the game. If you exert yourself and your dominance over another team, those couple of fumbles that's not going to matter anyway because you're that much far ahead. So I think they have to come out and they can't let the Giants hang around, and they have to come out and take care of business. And I don't know. Every time I've said this year, and I think they will, they dilly-dally around. So I'm going to see now. They better come out of there with a W, but I want to see a nice shiny W. I don't want to see what we just made it out of there. Jeez. No. And especially the last thing I heard was that's if Saquon does play. If Saquon doesn't play, this can't be even close. Sorry.
Because
With our football team.
I don't think that, because if they don't have a running game, if they don't have Saquon, the Eagles' run defense is already very good.
Yep.
And Daniel, I'm not disrespecting Daniel Jones, but he certainly isn't a guy to be afraid of, you know?
No, especially without the running game, because there's no play action then. I mean, so, you know, and I understand we're getting Maddox back. Maddox is, anybody who knows this football team knows how valuable that guy is. He's been out for about 5 weeks now. He covers the slot receiver, and he's damn good at what he does, and his absence is felt. Do you remember that night a couple weeks back when that kid from the Love or whatever his name is from the Green Bay Packers threw a little crossing route to
Jordan Love? Yep.
Yeah, and threw a little crossing, like a 10-yard crossing route, and the guy took it to the house. That never happens with Maddox in here. Maddox spikes that ball down on the ground. I'm telling you. So I'm glad to see Maddox back. Let me knock on wood. He's just seems to always get hurt. So I'm glad to see he's back, and hopefully he stays healthy for the rest of the way. What do you think about your Cowboys?
So we're playing the Texans for the first time since 2018. We lost to them in 2018. The Texans are like 1-10-1 or something. Like, the record is horrific. It's awful. I haven't really paid close attention to the Texans this year. I think they still have Brandon Cooks in the team. I think Davis Mills, a young quarterback, still the quarterback. You know, we should win very easily, but you know, I say this with like very trepidation kind of, because the Cowboys, it's one of those guaranteed games. They call these trap games, right? Because it's so easy. I can see us losing for sure, but I don't think we're going to lose. I think we're going to win, because we've been kind of on a roll lately, especially our offense, you know, putting up over 50 points, you know, that type of stuff. But yeah, we should win.
Well, that offense didn't put up 50 there. He put up.
Well, no, the team did, though. The team.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Sure. But yeah, your offense is playing much better. I'll tell you that. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So, but my point is that the Cowboys have one of the most like high scoring offenses. I haven't looked at the numbers recently.
Yes, they do.
I can guess that we have one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. You know, it's all a combination of things. The defense sets up to the offense, right? Because the defense puts your offense in good field position, the offense as well. They don't have to go a certain amount of yards. It's all, you know, it's very like symbiotic, the relationship between the offense and the defense.
Right.
But yeah, I expect us to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if we lose either. And I don't even know, you know, tomorrow is my mother's birthday. So I don't even know if I could even watch the game. Plus they're playing the Texans, and the Eagles and Giants are on at 1:00 too. So I don't even know if I can watch it, because it's probably not on national TV. It would probably be like a red zone situation where I'm just like catching the highlights on red zone when they score touchdowns.
Right.
But another thing that happened on Thursday night this week was Baker Mayfield had a phenomenal comeback win for the Rams over the 49ers or the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
And that guy's, you know, he was basically thrown the trash by the Panthers. They didn't want him anymore. Probably ate some of his contract and they're paying him now, even though he's on the Rams. But you know, it was a very strategic. We're talking about chess. It was a very chess-like move that Sean McVay made, the coach of the Rams, in signing Baker Mayfield and claiming him off waivers, because the 49ers wanted Baker Mayfield.
Exactly.
And then he goes out and beats the Raiders on a last-second drive. The guy has some magic in him, right? He's got sparks. That's why he was the number one pick and the Heisman winner, because, you know, he shows these moments where he has the ability to be a good quarterback, but it's just not consistent enough, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he can make several throws. His arm is a lot stronger than I realized it was. I saw him crank one a few times. I saw him really, you know, let it rip, and he's got a good strong arm. I just don't know if I don't know if it's a thing where he's not seeing everything he's supposed to see, or is in anticipation he doesn't throw the ball as early as he should. Because it's tough to play quarterback in the National Football League, because you got to drop back and see your spot. And you know, when you're playing in the park with your boys, your guy's 5 yards open and you drill him the ball. This isn't like that. Your guy's running a route and his back, you're still looking at the name on his back. You're throwing the ball to the left or the right of him 2 to 3 yards based on how he's supposed to cut, and you got to remember which way he's going to cut, and you release that ball way before. By the time he turns around, that ball's like about 2 yards from him. So that's what I'm talking about, that anticipation, that kind of a thing. I don't know if he has that. I don't know what his weakness is, but he's just not on that upper tier, and maybe those couple things are things that are his weaknesses. I don't know, but it's hard to play quarterback in the National Football League. It really is.
Yeah. And I guess talk about basketball really quick. I don't know if I said this in the podcast yet, but I'm a really diehard New York Knicks fan. I grew up a Chicago Bulls fan because Michael Jordan is one of my idols. He's a legend. I was obsessed with him as a kid. But then I couldn't still root for the Bulls after he retired. It was like, I couldn't get into it. I tried to root for the Bulls, but I couldn't. But then I started rooting a lot for the Knicks, and I have a really passion for the Knicks. We have a Villanova point guard this year, Jalen Brunson. He's doing great. The team is, they're 13-13. They're 500. They're in 8th place in the Eastern Conference. They're beating bad teams. They're not always beating good teams, but every Knick game is like a roller coaster. It's always comes down to the wire. Even if we have a 20-point lead, we'll blow it. Then the game will come down to the wire. We'll come back from crazy deficits. But the Knicks are kind of like, average this year, but they're better than they were. I still think we need one more piece. We need one more big time player. Because Julius Randle is not a number one option. Jalen Brunson is a hell of a point guard. I don't know if you could put him in the category of not being a number one option because he's an awesome player. But we need one more, I think we need like a shooting guard, a dominant like shooting guard, a guy who could really just like, get his own shot and do a bunch of things and spread the floor. But the Sixers, they're only one game ahead of the Knicks, and they played one less game. What do you think about the Sixers this year?
Well, I think Maxey is a tremendous player that's really on the come. I mean, he's only his second or third year, and any trade that they've ever talked to anyone about, they would tell people he's not going to be part of it. They're keeping him, and he's going to really, really be something. His absence is really being felt. That's but even with him, it didn't look right this year. It just didn't look right this year yet. Now, look, there's a lot of basketball to be played, and James Harden is looking better. He's looking in better condition. But they've got to get Maxey back. And with Maxey back at full throttle and Embiid playing his best ball and Harden showing, a little bit of what he used to be.
As long as Harden tries, if he just puts effort
right.
in.
Right. They should be able to compete. But my thing is here, I don't know who's going to slow down that team from Boston. They are just grooving.
The Boston's relying on the 3-point shot a lot. So you could beat them if they're not hitting their threes. That's one thing I'll say, because they're good. They're 21-5. They're miles ahead of the Bucks are 19-6. So it's like the Bucks and Boston are the cream of the crop in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, the Western Conference, the top two teams are the Pelicans and the Grizzlies. When you see the Pelicans in first place, it's like, whoa, but they have Zion Williamson is healthy this year.
Did you see the other night when he did that 360 dunk with like winning? They were up by 16 points.
It was the end of the game.
Did you see that? And did you see what happened?
I saw a funny Barstool Sports tweet about it because there was like the other team said game. They're like, okay, that's game. The game's over. And then they put Zion like the two dots, whatever they call that. Zion's response is that 360 dunk with no
a colon. Okay.
Colon. Yeah. What did you say? What happened with the dunk?
Well, did you see that he was up by 15 or 16, whatever it was, and he decided to do that? Yeah, exactly. And did you see the reaction from the other team? Did you see what ensued?
Didn't see too much of it.
They were gone. Two groups, and it looked like a baseball, bench clear. I mean, the two teams were up. And this was my point just a little bit I'm not going to get too deep into it. He's a fine young man, great young man. He didn't need to do that. He didn't need to antagonize unnecessarily.
Stuff like that, that's
well, it almost turned into something. And what he did wasn't even that bad, as opposed to like, standing over a dude and looking down at him and stuff, that kind of thing. And I'm not going to get back to that. I love everybody. It's a certain mode of behavior.
But what went on during the game? What if people are trash talking him, calling him overweight and calling him washed and calling him a joke and calling him overrated?
Well, then he should just trash talk it back necessarily.
He let his actions speak. He's like, this is the period on the game. This is my period. This is my exclamation point. I'm going to dunk on your ass. And they're going to, he knows in the future, they're not going to forget that. And they couldn't want to retaliate, especially on the court. But I don't know. I love seeing stuff like that. It was, it was one of those things. It's like, plus the fans like it too. And I was on the highlights. I'm all for that type of stuff.
My only point is that sometimes we can get a little carried away and create that kind of a thing unnecessarily. Now, actually, I mean, I'll buy in a little bit because it's actually part of the game. But the thing of it here is there are unwritten rules in sports. There are unwritten rules. If you're up by 11 runs, you don't steal third base or something like that. And, with two, if you're up by a certain amount, of basketball with like a certain amount of time left. It's like, all right, we're good. He violated one of those unwritten rules. That's all. And I'm just saying in general, let's antagonize each other a little less and just ball out. Just play good ball. You know what I mean?
It's one of those things that, like, you know,
I got where you're coming from too. I heard every word you said. I can dig it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, I just compare today's athlete with yesterday's athlete, and I just can't imagine. And look, the Celtics and Sixers almost went at it a couple different. There was all kind of in the Lakers and Celtics in one final, but it was a hard foul here or there. It was something like that, but it wasn't, slamming on a guy and then staring him down, or if he falls in front of you, standing over him and kind of, it wasn't any of that kind of stuff. And I just think it's gotten a little bit out of hand today. And again, it's everybody. It's not any particular group or anybody. It's everybody. It's that type of behavior. People don't bother me. There's certain behaviors bother me, from wherever they happen to, manifest. But anyway.
Yeah, so let's wrap up the show there. I thank everyone for listening. I believe this is the 10th episode. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on TuneIn. We might try to get on other platforms. The numbers seem to be pretty good so far. We have an organic growth. We're really happy with how the show's going. Again, I'm also on TikTok showing review stuff. I'm doing food reviews. And thanks to everyone for listening. Any last words, Joe?
No, I just want to say thanks again. It's been a pleasure. Take care.
Take care, everyone.